welcome to another episode of Erongo Talk. I'm your host, Erongo, and today I'm joining you from Platz Am Meer here in Swakopmund. So in today's episode, Wilma Garises is going to tell us about her salon and all her arty crafts. Stay with us, we'll be right back after this. And now it is time for your news. In our first story for today, 28-year-old Janet Benson, who made an appearance on a charge of culpable homicide and other charges related to her fleeing the scene of an accident in which a 62-year-old man died, was granted bail. Benson, who is the wife of Urban Constituency Councillor Dario Benson, made her first appearance in the Walvis Bay Magistrates Court on Monday. During her first appearance before Magistrate Vicky Nicolaides, the public prosecutor explained that the accused is charged with culpable homicide. According to the prosecutor, there was apparently information of another accident the accused is involved in. As such, the state has opposed bail. The state needs clarity on this issue and requested demand for bail consideration to the 28th of September 2021. Joe Marikukamur represented the accused. Benson was remanded in custody after her first appearance. During her second appearance on Tuesday, the public prosecutor explained that investigations into the matter are not finalized yet. Statements and the photo plans are outstanding. We request remand for further investigation to the 10th of November and bail of $10,000 be granted. Benson is charged with culpable homicide, that's in a hit-and-run case, fleeing from the scene of an accident, failure to ascertain the nature of injury and damage after an accident, and driving a motor vehicle without a driver's license. And then in our second story for today, we're on a bit of a lighter note. Agility Orthopedic Centre services are spreading fast. After the established practice in Eros Windhoek and the Walvis Bay practice launched in February this year, Agility has opened a second outlet in Windhoek while currently preparing to equip a treatment centre in Swakopmund, thus boasting 4 centres in Namibia available to patients by the end of this year. So that's pretty soon. The new Windhoek Centre, which opened in September, is situated in Zuiderhof at the premises of Evolve Sport and Rehabilitation Centre. The multidisciplinary team of biokinetics, physiotherapists and doctors provide full orthopedic rehabilitation services according to DBC global protocols. This is the documentation-based care functional orthopedic treatment system, which uses an individual patient-centric active training program, which is specifically designed and extremely effective on training equipment. And now in our third and final story for today, Namibia's economy grew by 1.6% for the 3 months up to the 30th of June this year, the first positive year-on-year quarterly growth since the end of 2019. The latest data released by the Namibia Statistics Agency, that's the NSA, must be seen in context though. The growth comes from a historic low base as the gross domestic product grew by minus 11.6% in the second quarter of 2020 when the economy started buckling under the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Second quarter growth hasn't been positive since 2018 when it came at 5.2%. Since the start of the current recessionary cycle in 2016, the average gross domestic profit growth in the second quarter was 1.6%. In comparison, the GDP growth in the same quarter in 2014 and 2015 was 5.4% and 4.7% respectively. In real terms, which allow for factors like inflation, the economy generated about 32.7 billion Namibian dollars in the past quarter, around $500 million more than the same 3 months last year. However, it falls way short of the nearly 37.4 billion produced in the second quarter of 2018. So hotels and tourism, a proxy for the state of the tourism industry, contributed 489 million Namibian dollars to the second quarter GDP. Although an improvement of about 34% from a year ago, it is still 239 million Namibian dollars below the 2019 figure, which was before tourism was hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. So you can check out the stories we discussed earlier and so much more on our website. That's at www.erongo.com.na. It's www.erongo.com.na. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Goeiedag, mevrouw Wilma Garises. Hoe gaat het met u?
Dat gaan baie goed met my.
Alright, jy is nou die eienaar van 'n paar besighede hier in Swakopmund. Sê ons bietjie meer van jou salon. Wat is die naam van die salon en wanneer het jy met enige begin?
My salon se naam is Salon Wilma en ek het 96 Maart maand met die salon begin tot nou toe. En dan het ek nou my salon bietjie uitgebrei want ek doen ook baie handwerk van kleins af. Dan het ek nou recycling ook ingebring, handwerkgoede wat ek doen met my hande.
Okay. Nou ons gaan die tweede besigheid wat jy nou het is wat is die naam van die?
Wilma's Arts and Crafts.
En dis nou die ene wat jy van praat van die recycling. Okay, kom ons gaan nou bietjie terug na jou jy sê jy het 'n salon. Wat is so spesiaal van jou salon wat ek nie in 'n ander salon kan kry nie?
Die spesiale ding in my salon is, ek het 'n mooiste stoel wat ander salonne nie het nie. Wat die manne, die barbers, hulle hou baie van die stoel, want die stoel gaan agtertoe en so aan, dan kan hulle bietjie relax terwyl hulle geskeer word.
En jy is 'n vrou, maar jy kap ook hare en jy doen ook hare vir die vroumense. Is dit in vandag se wêreld is dit iets wat uniek is? Hoe sien die mense dit?
Ek is regtig 'n vrou wat baie van mense mooi maak hou. Want in die meeste werk wat ek doen is, ek werk met die skeer. Want ek kan maar sê ek is met 'n goue of silwer skeer, ek weet nie hoe moet ek sê nie, gebore met die skeer kan ek alles doen. En ek skeer vrouens se hare, ek skeer mans hare, ook met die masjien, maar om mens mooi te maak is my, hoe sal ek sê, ek is baie trots, is my passie.
Okay. En wat 'n soort hairstyle, as ek kan sê, of styl van haar is die ene wat die gewildste is vir manne hier by jou salon?
Hulle sê tjoeskop, want hulle soek die hare en die hare moet afgeskeer word. Maar is nou my geaardheid, is om ook wat mense se hare te skeer. Eers het ek die customer gesê, ek kan nie meer nie. So dit was nou my, sê wat ek gehad het.
Okay, so moeilike customers en jy kry altyd een van dies, né?
Een van dies, jy kry altyd een van dies.
So 'n vriendelike glimlag en net die manier hoe jy die diens vir die customer gee is baie belangrik.
Is baie belangrik. Van dat ek begin het, dat ek huise toe gegaan by die huise, ou mense gaan doen. Nou jare werk ek by Lions terwyl hulle lê in die beddens, baie siek mense se hare doen ek ook. Is my liefste. Ja, nie gratis nie, eintlik hulle gee ten minste iets. Maar ek is baie lief om ou mense en so siek mense ook te bedien.
Nou ons gaan nou by jou arts and crafts. Sê my bietjie meer, hoe het die idee opgekom om nou die recycled materials te vat en sakkies te maak, soos wat ons nou hier in die agtergrond sien? Hoe het dit begin?
Ek het begin 20 jaar gelede met plastic sakke hekel, want ek is iemand wat baie van skoonheid hou, om die environment, of hoe sal ek sê, skoon te hou. As ek miskien sien met omgewing skoon te maak, nee, en de recycle, dat die ander mense ook sien, om saam met my te werk, om ook omgewing skoon te maak. As ek sien papiertjie lê voor my, dan moet ek dit optel. Ek is so 'n mens, en ek doen met elke iets wat ek optel, doen ek iets. En dan leer ek om ander mense om ook environment bietjie skoon te maak. Toe begin ek met plastic sakke, nou het dit uitgebrei. Nou maak ek met chipspakkies en ander hande sakkies mooi goed. Ek doen baie met chipsakkies. Ek maak handsakke, groot handsakke. Ek maak hoedens ook. Ek maak voorskotte, al wat dit ding is, maak ek met chipspakkies.
En Swakop is 'n plek waar baie toeriste kom besoek, is dit miskien iets wat hulle van hou?
Hulle hou baie van toeriste, hou mos van unieke goed of hoe sal ek sê iets wat iets anders lyk en hulle ondersteun my baie, hulle koop baie van die sakke van my.
Alright, nou om te sluit, wat is jou boodskap vir die mense daar wat nou kyk? Wat is jou laaste boodskap wat jy vir hulle het?
Die boodskap wat ek vir die mense gee is soos ek voorheen gesê het, hulle moet die omgewing bewaar, hulle moet die omgewing skoonmaak. Die plastic sakke moet nie rond lê nie. Want soms jy het geld nodig, maar dit wat jy weggooi is geld en die geld, die plastic sakke en papiere en alles mors. As hulle nou see toe gaan, dit kan ook in die see ingewaai word, dan kan die visse van dit eet en vir my is dit regtig iets anders. Ek moet die omgewing bewaar. Nou stuur ek die boodskap na mense, enige iets as jy kan recycle. Ons kan ook alles nie weggooi, laat dit diep toe gaan nie. Daar gaan recycle ek ook. Alles wat ons kan ons gebruik, is my boodskap aan die mense.
Baie dankie.
Baie dankie ook.
M to the E, the mentee. We've spoken about applying pressure, about expanding the comfort zone of the mentee. We've also spoken about that you need to allow for time. It's a long-term journey. It's not something that happens overnight. It could take years. The last important and probably the most important component of the mentee and of the whole formula and to make it work is you have to allow for failure. You heard me? You have to allow for failure. You need to allow the mentees to make mistakes. Think about it. How did you get where you are today? You didn't wake up one morning and suddenly you are where you are now. You made a number of mistakes along the way. I love using my granddaughter as an example for explaining failure. Yeah. When she was starting to stand, she was crawling and she was learning to stand and she was trying. And every time she'd stand up a bit and then she'd fall down. We didn't boo her or chuck her out. We encouraged her. We clapped hands. Yay, great, great, great. And she kept trying and she kept trying and she kept trying. And after weeks, she eventually managed to stand. And then she tried to walk. And again, she failed a couple of times and she fell down. But she stood up and she tried. That as well, when it comes to failure, the team is so important because the team support one another. When someone falls down, makes a mistake, there's other members of the team and the leader to pick them up and to help them. It's about having empathy. Understand where you were at that point and understand where this person is coming from. And allow them to make a mistake. Remember, failure is only failure if no lesson is learned. Other than that, it's experience. That's the only way you get experience. Banging your head a couple of times. Yes, you don't want them to make mistakes that are going to cost you thousands of dollars or going to ruin your company. I agree with it. So that is why you are there. That is why you are mentoring. That's why they are mentee. You are there guiding them along. But you can't wrap them in cotton wool and you can't expect them to do everything right the first time. You've got to allow them to make a couple of mistakes along the way so that they can learn. You know, if you look at a lot of businesses, I've spoken to many people, you look at venture capitalist investors, you even look at some banks, they will much rather invest in somebody that's failed at business and gone bankrupt than somebody that's never failed. Because they know that person has learned from the mistakes. They know there's a better chance of success for somebody that's already failed because they're not going to make the same mistakes. Now, we use Thomas Edison, classic example, invented the light bulb after the 1,001st try. So effectively, he failed 1,000 times. His attitude, however, was different. Edison turned around and said he didn't fail 1,000 times. He learned 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb. Now, if you have that attitude, then the failure becomes a learning curve and you gain experience from it, and the mentee gains experience from it. And that's how they learn to get to your position. Because your role in this whole formula is to create other leaders. And how do you create other leaders if they don't know? Yeah. I can remember the first time I rode a bicycle, my knees bled for 2 days because I fell off. But eventually I learned to ride a bicycle. It's exactly the same with your people. If you're teaching them and you're developing them, you need to allow them to fall down every now and then. But be there to pick them up. Be there to clean the scraped knee and to put the plaster on it. So, take your message, drive your message. Work with your mentees. Put pressure on them. Allow them time to grow and allow them to make a mistake every now and then.
And now it's time for your weather and tides in Swakopmund and all the other major towns in the Erongo region. For today, Walvis Bay expects a maximum temperature of 18 degrees Celsius with a minimum of 11 degrees Celsius and a maximum of 18 degrees Celsius for tomorrow. The wind is expected in a south-southwesterly direction at about 15 kilometers per hour. Sunrise was this morning at 15 minutes to 7 and sunset is expected at 7 o'clock tonight. Swakopmund expects a maximum temperature of 16 degrees Celsius for today with a minimum of 11 degrees Celsius and a maximum of 16 degrees Celsius for tomorrow. The wind is expected in a south-southwesterly direction at about 13 kilometers per hour. Sunrise was this morning at 15 minutes to 7 and sunset is expected at 7 o'clock tonight. Henties Bay expects a maximum temperature of 16 degrees Celsius for today with a minimum of 12 degrees Celsius and a maximum of 16 degrees Celsius for tomorrow. The wind is expected in a southerly direction at about 15 kilometers per hour. Sunrise was this morning at 14 minutes to 7 and sunset is expected at 1 minute past 7 tonight. Arandis expects a maximum temperature of 23 degrees Celsius for today with a minimum of 8 degrees Celsius and a maximum of 24 degrees Celsius for tomorrow. The wind is expected in a southwesterly direction at about 9 kilometers per hour. Sunrise was this morning at 17 minutes to 7 and sunset is expected at 2 minutes to 7 tonight. Usakos expects a maximum temperature of 30 degrees Celsius for today with a minimum of 10 degrees Celsius and a maximum of 31 degrees Celsius for tomorrow. The wind is expected in a southerly direction at about 9 kilometers per hour. Sunrise was this morning at 19 minutes to 7 and sunset is expected at 4 minutes to 7 tonight. Karibab expects a maximum temperature of 30 degrees Celsius for today with a minimum of 10 degrees Celsius and a maximum of 31 degrees Celsius for tomorrow. The wind is expected in a south-southwesterly direction at about 9 kilometers per hour. Sunrise was this morning at 20 minutes to 7 and sunset is expected at 5 minutes to 7 tonight. Omaruru expects a maximum temperature of 33 degrees Celsius for today with a minimum of 9 degrees Celsius and a maximum of 33 degrees Celsius for tomorrow. The wind is expected in a southwesterly direction at about 11 kilometers per hour. Sunrise was this morning at 20 minutes to 7 and sunset is expected at 6 minutes to 7 tonight. So that unfortunately brings us to the end of yet another episode of Erongo Talk. It was wonderful being in your company today. So remember that you don't have to miss us too much until tomorrow, because you can check out our website. That's www.erongo.com.na. It's www.erongo.com.na for all the stories we discussed earlier and so much more. And if you want to get in touch with us and let us know what's happening in your town, in your community, you can send us a WhatsApp or a Telegram at 0811 7040. That's 0811 7040. And alternatively, if you want to catch up on today's episode of Erongo Talk again, or you want to watch all our previous episodes, you can check out our TV channel. That's at oneup2.com. That's ONEUPTWO.com. oneup2.com. So until tomorrow, please stay safe, please stay healthy, wear your mask, sanitize your hands, maintain social distancing, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. We'll see you again tomorrow. Goodbye.